The studio lights were blinding, but not enough to hide the tears forming in Dakota Johnson's eyes. She tried to smile, but her voice trembled before the words could even leave her lips. It was supposed to be a simple interview, another promotional appearance, another day of being graceful under pressure. But when the host gently asked about Jamie Dornan, the silence that followed was heavier than anyone expected. Dakota lowered her gaze, took a deep breath, and whispered the words that would shatter Hollywood's calm facade. "I never expected Jamie to do that." The room froze. The audience stopped clapping. Even the host looked lost for words. For a woman known for her composure and poise, Dakota's voice breaking on live television was a moment that no one could have predicted. Within hours, the clip went viral. Headlines erupted across every platform. Dakota Johnson breaks down talking about Jamie Dornan. What did Jamie do? The internet demands answers. The video showed everything: the long pause, the tears she tried to hide, the way her voice cracked when she said his name. Fans had never seen her like this. She wasn't the confident actress from red carpets or film premieres. She was human, raw, hurt. Just days earlier, Jamie Dornan had given an interview that was meant to be lighthearted. But one sentence from that interview had changed everything. When asked about his past collaborations, he said, "I value honesty more than comfort, and not everyone I worked with was honest." He didn't name names, but the internet didn't need him to. The timing, the tone, the smirk, everyone immediately assumed he was talking about Dakota. It spread like wildfire. Blogs, entertainment sites, and fan forums all exploded with speculation. Jamie shades Dakota Johnson. One headline screamed. Former co-stars turn enemies. Another read. Fans of 50 Shades were heartbroken. The chemistry that once looked unbreakable now seemed poisoned by resentment. Dakota had stayed silent for days. Her team advised her to ignore it, to let the story die. But silence has a way of amplifying pain. So when she finally appeared on that talk show, the world saw what she had been holding in. Her voice was soft, but the words carried weight. "I thought we understood each other," she said slowly. "I guess I was wrong." The crowd gasped. It wasn't anger, it was disappointment. A kind of heartbreak that only comes when someone you trust crosses a line you thought they never would. Dakota had always defended Jamie, even when tabloids tried to pit them against each other during the 50 Shades years. She once called him a brother, a friend, someone I'll always care about. But now, that friendship seemed fractured. An insider close to Dakota revealed that she felt betrayed and blindsided. According to the source, the two had an unspoken agreement never to speak negatively about one another in public. They had survived years of rumors, uncomfortable questions, and endless scrutiny together. That trust was sacred, and in her eyes, Jamie had just broken it. The internet quickly divided. Some accused Dakota of overreacting. Others fiercely defended her. "She's heartbroken," one fan tweeted. "You can see it in her eyes. This isn't about gossip. This is about someone she truly cared for." As the clip continued to circulate, Jamie's name was dragged through the mud. Old interviews were pulled up, every glance between them re-analyzed. Fans started compiling montages, from red carpets, behind-the-scenes moments, to old interviews, where Jamie's affection for Dakota seemed obvious. Now, people were asking, had something deeper always been there? Was this pain just professional disappointment, or something more personal? Meanwhile, Dakota stayed out of sight. Paparazzi caught her days later leaving a cafe in Los Angeles, eyes hidden behind dark glasses. When asked if she'd seen Jamie's comments, she only said, "Words can hurt, especially when you don't expect them." Then she got into her car and drove away. That small statement became another headline. Words can hurt. Simple, powerful, and it said everything she didn't need to explain. Back in London, sources close to Jamie claimed he hadn't meant to offend her. It was taken out of context, one insider insisted. He was talking generally about the film industry, not about Dakota. But the damage was done. For fans who had believed their bond was unshakable, the heartbreak was collective. The pair who once defined cinematic chemistry were now separated by silence and unspoken tension. At the end of the viral interview, Dakota wiped away her tears, smiled weakly, and said softly, "Some things can't be undone." The host didn't push further. The cameras faded to black, but the internet didn't stop talking. Because if Dakota Johnson, the woman who once stood proudly beside Jamie Dornan through every controversy, was now crying on live TV, then one thing was certain: something had broken between them. And everyone wanted to know the same thing. What exactly did Jamie Dornan do that made Dakota Johnson say she never expected it? The fallout was immediate. The clip of Dakota's tearful confession continued to spread across every corner of the internet, and with it came a wave of confusion, sympathy, and anger. For the first time in years, Hollywood wasn't talking about a film or a scandalous affair. It was talking about two people whose friendship had quietly fallen apart. Jamie Dornan's name was everywhere. Reporters camped outside his London home, waiting for a statement. Fans tagged him relentlessly online, demanding an apology. For 3 days, he said nothing. Then, without warning, he appeared on camera, not in a glossy studio or a red carpet interview, but in a simple, dimly lit room that looked like a hotel suite. His face was tired, his tone subdued. "I've seen the video," he began softly. "And I've seen the things people are saying. I never meant to hurt Dakota. Not her, not anyone." He sighed, running a hand through his hair before continuing. "That comment I made, about honesty, it wasn't aimed at her. It was about the industry, about how people change when fame takes over. But I understand how it sounded. I should have been clearer. I should have protected her from all this." For a moment, his voice cracked. "She's been my friend for years. We went through things together that only the two of us could understand. I never expected it to come to this." It wasn't the apology fans expected, it was something more personal. There was no PR polish, no script, just regret. But even then, the damage had already been done. The press replayed Dakota's tears next to Jamie's statement, turning it into a split screen of heartbreak. Some praised him for taking responsibility. Others accused him of hiding behind vague words. The narrative was no longer about one careless comment. It was about the fragile line between love, loyalty, and misunderstanding. Meanwhile, Dakota remained silent. She hadn't responded to his video, hadn't posted anything new. But a few days later, she was spotted attending a charity gala in Los Angeles. The cameras captured her walking gracefully down the red carpet, head held high, but her expression, calm yet distant, said everything. Inside the event, a journalist bravely asked her if she'd seen Jamie's apology. Dakota paused, then gave a small, bittersweet smile. "I saw it," she said quietly. "Sometimes saying sorry isn't about fixing things, it's about admitting that they're broken." Those words became headline news. Dakota Johnson responds to Jamie Dornan's apology. It's about admitting they're broken. Once again, the internet split in two. Some believed she had accepted his apology. Others thought it was her way of saying goodbye. Behind the scenes, people close to them revealed that Jamie had reached out privately, not through messages or publicists, but with a handwritten letter delivered to her home. He told her he missed their friendship, one insider said, that he never wanted to be the reason she cried. Whether Dakota replied to that letter, no one knows. Weeks passed, and both returned to work, but things were different. Interviews that once mentioned their partnership now avoided it completely. Fans noticed the shift, the silence between them louder than any rumor. Still, moments of tenderness occasionally surfaced. During a press junket months later, Jamie was asked to name the best co-star he had ever worked with. He smiled faintly and said, "The person who taught me the most about acting and kindness. She knows who she is." Everyone knew who he meant. Dakota, too, showed a trace of warmth. In a magazine profile promoting her next film, she was asked if she still kept in touch with Jamie. Her answer was simple: "I hope he's doing okay." No anger, no bitterness, just quiet grace. For fans, it was bittersweet closure. The fairy tale of Jamie and Dakota, Two people whose connection once blurred the lines between fiction and reality had ended not with betrayal, but with heartbreak and distance. As time went on, the chaos began to fade. The tabloids moved on to other stories, the hashtags disappeared, and the noise finally quieted. But for those who had witnessed the emotional unraveling, the memory of that interview lingered. The sight of Dakota Johnson, eyes wet, voice trembling, saying, "I never expected Jamie to do that." In her final interview on the subject, months later, Dakota reflected on that moment. "People think it was about anger," she said softly. "It wasn't. It was about surprise. When you care about someone, you think you know what they're capable of, until they prove you wrong. And that's what hurts the most." She smiled faintly before adding, "But maybe that's how we grow, by realizing that even the people we love can disappoint us, and we can still forgive them." It wasn't a scandal anymore. It was a story about two people who had once shared something genuine, and who, despite the chaos, had found a quiet way to let each other go. The headlines would fade, but one truth remained. In Hollywood, relationships may change, but emotions never lie. And for Dakota Johnson, that one tearful confession had turned from heartbreak into strength, a reminder that even in chaos, honesty is still the bravest thing one can have.